I've just been watching a true crime YouTube video. It's not something I normally watch. I don't really take any pleasure in any of those things. Sometimes I consider it quite morbid, to be totally honest. But I was scouring YouTube, just watching my normal content. I usually just watch gaming stuff, really, um, sports. But I got a bit fed up, to be honest, because I think some of the content creators are boring. I think it's repetitive. There's so much stuff that I just get really fed up with nowadays. And I'm like, I can't listen to this any longer. I'm fed up, fed up, fed up. And it's popped up on the screen. I thought, I'm not sure, I'm not familiar with this. At least I can't remember if I am, because things happen years ago or something. And I was just thinking, I'd like to be able to repost this, like share it as you would on social media, just be able to repost it. And I realized on YouTube, you can't just repost. So I've done something here. If I can get my screen up. At the bottom of my channel now, so when you go on my profile, I've got my playlist. I've had to remove a playlist to make space because YouTube only lets you have so many. I had to think what to take off, so I had to take one off. And because I think it's important. So these are not going to be videos that I just watch all the time. This isn't going to be gaming stuff. It's not going to be sports. None of that. This is going to be real world stuff, things that I think deserve attention. It might be someone's got a story to tell if they've been through something. It might be inspiring. It might be traumatic. It might be anything and everything that I just feel has to do with personal growth, or just something that intertwines within that. It's something that I feel people are going to learn from. And it might be a harsh lesson for sure. So in this video, which I've been watching, I'm halfway through, but I was like, oh, it's just so sad. Most things in life, like when there's a tragedy, it's like so avoidable. If you see the signs, but hindsight's a beautiful thing, in the moment, it's, rarely is it as simple as you think. But I think it's about learning from the circumstances. Don't be naively infatuated with people. I know it's hard for people to be like that when you're attracted to someone, you've got a connection, or what you perceive to be a connection. But look for the signs as you get into a relationship. Does someone force you in a way to distance yourself from those who are familiar to you? Or do they embrace that connection? They allow you that, So as soon as someone starts to show signs that they're controlling of you personally, that for me is the biggest alarm bell. Because what you don't want to do is to be a prisoner in any situation, especially a relationship. So we have the choice to release ourselves from said situations. I also think it's important to have sort of a plan in the back of your mind before you go into any situation. Just something you work out before you even ever get into a relationship, if you think about it. Before you've even met anyone, you already have a plan in your mind of this is how I'd cope with this. Because it's important for self-preservation. We keep ourselves safe. What would you do in a situation if this scenario was to happen, or this scenario was to happen? So then you've got, at least if you ever saw the signs in it yourself, you've already got a plan. Even if you do, it's not like you've got to come up with something in the moment and get overwhelmed. You already know what you've already thought out beforehand. This is what I'll do. I just think, especially if it's in a foreign country, it's like, make sure you get yourself to safety. Just get home, Don't wait for something really bad to happen. Again, you never know when something bad's going to happen. But I think there's some things to learn in other people's suffering, unfortunately. It happens, and you learn the lessons. In this, it's not just this video. This is literally what happened. It's something that was in the news. I'm familiar with the fact that someone said, I remember someone in Canada being in the news. Again, there's so many events in the world, it's hard to keep up. And this was just so, it's like, any tragedy is traumatic, of course. But just watching the way they filmed it, I think it's incredible. I think filmmakers do deserve, even people who do documentaries, they do deserve a lot of credit how they present it and do the timeline of events. But you've got this young girl who, I think sometimes this happens, especially if you talk to someone from another country, it can seem exotic. I think it's exotic, the idea that you've met someone from a faraway land, it's a different culture, it's a different experience, it can seem glamorous. So maybe you put them on a pedestal and you think it's going to be all this and it's going to be all that. So, the difference with this situation is the person had been talking to the other party, had been talking to him for a few years, but they were going through high school and all these things. So it's like they were both young. The guy was slightly older, but either way, they're both young. And when she got old enough, she decided she wanted to go and relocate from Canada to England, or at least visit. family, of course, were reluctant. It's a big change. You don't want to lose her, but she had her heart set on it. I'm not going to, I can go off. I'd say go watch the video, so you don't have to listen to me talk any further. Just go. I'm going to put a link. I don't even have to. I'll put a link in the video description, of course, but you can just go on my profile now and go on there and have a little look. You want to get into the deepest aspects of it yourself and watch it, how it's documented. You've got a gal that's excited to go and have a new adventure. And the guy presents himself as nice. Even some, I think sometimes people on the outside can seem creepy, and I think, you could say it's just looks, but I think there's certain ways that people present themselves, and I think the alarm bell's perhaps there. But again, hindsight. But yeah, so this person's presenting as he's caring and all those things, but apparently, like, when she got there, he was acting nice because that's, and then things unraveled as time was going on. But it was more like in the interim period, it's a bit like the way people are with social media, they present things as perfect. It's funny how people are like that. They always want to paint the best picture. I think you should always just paint the honest picture. But again, hindsight and all that in someone else's personal circumstance. But it's always best to be true to situations, rather than wait until things are like unbearable. So the family weren't really aware of the suffering and the isolation. So it's not like she was being treated very well at all. Like she wasn't being, treated like gifts and things. Maybe weren't talking to her the way he was talking to her beforehand. They're sort of like reclusive, so they don't even go out, don't even do anything. So I feel like a prisoner. And then on this tragic day, and the sequence of events it's just maddening. It's like some people just absolutely crazy, like genuinely. This person was getting violent with him over time, and it seemed like they were actually having mental breakdowns and things. But it's either way, there's no justification. So anyway, the girl she left the home and just went next door because it was a flat. So she went to the neighbor. The neighbor took her in, helped her. And she decided, I'm going to go home because her family had been asking her to come home now. Like, obviously the relationship ain't working. So she said, yeah, I'm going to get on the next flight. Her grandma paid for the flight. It was, that's nice. This is where it's complicated. This is where it's unfortunate sequence of events. This was during COVID. And anyone knows anything about travel with COVID, you need a test. You need to have a valid proof that you don't have COVID or you can't get on a flight. So I'm sure there was a lot of domestic abuse stuff happening during that period in a lot of homes because, you're bound by these things. You just don't have your freedom. So that put an extra twist on the whole concept, But she was due to get the test and then she was going to fly out. And apparently the boyfriend said, I'll take you to the airport, and they agreed to do it. And it was that day. I don't know if it's exactly that day that she went back in from the neighbour's house to see, because she said he wants to talk to her, so she's going to go sort it out. It's always people with the kindest hearts, or the people, people that are just mature enough to handle situations that end up with a lunatic, Apparently he stabbed her, strangled her and stabbed her 90 times. And it's like, bloody, like, how can if you try and imagine it in some way, which I don't think is even comprehensible, I don't know you could have possibly managed that level of frenzy, like, in your mind. But, like, it's just, what gets people to that place? I don't understand it. If you're not happy, why bother someone else with your misery? I just don't understand that. But some people just genuinely cruel. But the part that when you amount it all, it's just so sad. It's so avoidable, of course. But it's just sad, isn't it? They've uprooted their life because they thought their hometown was too small. So they felt it would be glamorous, and they picture it, and they picture this amazing life that they could potentially have somewhere else. And that's ultimately where their demise is, by going there. And it's like, if it's so avoidable, And I haven't even got through it all. I'm like, look at 3 minutes in, it's halfway through, and I'm thinking, this is just unbearable, personally. The idea is the world's big, but yet the world's small. And it's weird, isn't it? Your neighbour, someone so close to someone else, it's like so much could be going on in just those walls. In just those 4 walls. It's so much different life happening in different homes, when you think about it like that. It's like quite crazy the amount of violence that can actually happen. I'll tell you something about like me personally. So I met someone online. I wouldn't say it's a similar situation to this, but at the end of the day, everybody's vulnerable. I think it's just sometimes you take a leap of faith, but have your wits about you. Nothing's come of it, so I'm not saying that. Um, but in a sense, if it had worked out and they had, one of us travels to the other, each one has the potential to be vulnerable because, and again, you can understand that. That's why maybe why you go a bit with him because you feel a bit alien. You don't feel like you have anyone you can lean on because it's a different culture. So I could sort of understand that. But I always had, if my finances were good enough, I mean, if my finances were good enough, I always had a plan in mind of how I would deal with a situation. I would want that person to have like if this is if I was if I felt wealthy enough. Unfortunately, I'm not wealthy enough, so it's not ideal. But let's say that situation was to come to be, and I was. We're going to talk about we're going to talk hypotheticals here. It's the only way it makes sense. I've always in my mind made it clear in my mind. I think I've said it to them as well. But this isn't a situation that turned into a relationship in the end. So it's not like this is likely to happen. I'm just talking in hypotheticals now because it might help with this. I wanted to get if that would transpire into something, I would give them about £1,000 in their bank account, and I'd say never touch that. That's your money. That's your emergency fund. That's what I would want for someone. I would never want anyone to feel trapped to me. I would never want anyone to feel stuck to a circumstance. I would rather someone has autonomy on their life, so they're free. So £1,000 in your bank account, and that stays there. It doesn't get touched unless you decide you want to leave. In that case, you do it. You can go anytime you want. You don't even have to say anything to me. Literally, you want to get away, go. Because the thing is, I'd never want anyone to stay with me who doesn't want to stay with me, but I definitely wouldn't want someone to be a prisoner. So literally, I'd rather they had the means to leave whenever they want. Because I think because that's the sad part is sometimes people feel tied to circumstances, and you see it all the time. People are tied to relationships because literally they don't have another way out, or their finances are tied to a circumstance. Well, I wouldn't want that for someone. I'd rather they had their freedom, so you can just leave at any moment. Yeah. Anyway, at the bare minimum, I think that's what people should do. So I think if we're going to learn anything from this, I think something similar people should consider. If you could only afford your flight to somewhere and you can't necessarily afford it back, do not travel. Don't put yourself at risk. Always give yourself a way out of a circumstance. Yeah. And I'd say if you have alarm bells early on or any stage, I think just heed that warning before it gets too late. Find yourself too attached and recognize that material things can be replaced. So let's say let's say you have a bad feeling. Let's say you've got out of the home. You've managed to just say, I'm going to the shops. You've managed to get away. It's the shops, whatever the hell the circumstance is. But you don't feel safe in that home. And if you was to go back in that, wherever it is, and you think you're going to be stuck there for a period of time. It's not just going to be like for a few hours. You might be stuck there for a week. You might be stuck there for a month. You might be stuck, whatever it is. And it's not going to be a good environment. It's toxic and you don't feel safe. Do not go back into that place. You've got freedom and autonomy of yourself while you're not there. As soon as you go back there, you are now a prisoner or at least coerced to someone else's control. Let's say your passport's in there and you're like, I can't do anything. My money and my passport is in there. I would personally just go to the police station. That's what I think you do. You go to the police station, you explain the circumstances, you say your possessions are stuck in there, but you don't feel safe to go back and get it. I don't know if the police can get it on your behalf or not, but maybe you'd be able to attend with them and then hopefully they'll be able to take you out. And then the first thing you want to do after you've got your passport is book a flight. Maybe, I don't know if they can escort you there or not, but I think I don't know the whole circumstance of the support you can get. But let's say you can't get a passport. Let's say they won't help you go and get it. Then what I would personally do is contact the local embassy. So let's say you're an American and you're in England and the police haven't helped you. The only way you're going to get that passport is to go back in there, but you don't feel safe. Maybe get in contact with your embassy and find out what they can do for you. If your phone's there or your money, just forget it. You do never, ever put your life at risk for something that's tangible possession. Even if things are being stolen and things, it's not worth your life. Things can be replaced. I know it hurts your ego and it might hurt your pride, but it's temporary. Believe me. Don't let anyone have level control. I know all these things are in hindsight, and maybe it's easier said than done, but I think it's really important that you never ever tie yourself to somewhere and put yourself at risk, because all of this is avoidable. In this situation, had she not gone back into that property and just stayed with the neighbour until, like, I don't know if the neighbour was going to let her stay there till she had a COVID test or not, but anything else but going into that home. Now, of course, she didn't know it was going to happen that day. You didn't know, but she already had bruises and things. Even if you're not sure if they're going to actually go something as final as ending your life, it's like you still don't want to go there and be abused. You shouldn't have to suffer like that. So I just think, people need to learn from tragedies. That's what I think. So personally, I just think always have an idea of the relationship you want, the values you live by, and find someone who's suitable to match those values. And look for the warning signs. Don't be naive. Don't just think, look out for people pleasers as well. Watch out for people who just agree with you on every little thing. And watch for people who get really bent out of shape when you don't agree with them on something, because that'll show someone's character. Narcissists love to be the one in control. So narcissists want to be right all the time, and they can't handle anything going against them because they take it so personal. It's an attack on their ego. So sometimes it's worth just testing that a little bit. Don't have to be the toxic way. I think just test it in a very natural way, and just to see how someone reacts, because you're looking for alarm bells. But yeah, anyway, I was going to show clips from the video, but I think personally, it's not really right for me to go sharing said clips. But you can, like I said, you can go to the bottom of my profile. You'll see this. Eventually, there'll be more now, because it's a new trend that I'm starting off here. I'm going to put recommended videos to watch. Now, it might take a while because, like I said, normally I don't watch like content that I create myself, where I do like my spiritual stuff. I talk about personal growth. I talk about society, sometimes politics. I might share some gaming content, some things where I think might be of interest to other people who maybe not delved in these things. I don't tend to the content I create, I don't tend to watch personally. So I inspire myself, if you like. It's just what I go through for life, I share. I don't tend to watch other people to get ideas. I tend to just be on my own path. So I don't go looking for that. But if something was to pop up and I see it, then I'll share it here. But because I tend to watch gaming stuff and sports, I don't want to fill that up with this. But yeah, if I see something inspiring, so I'll post it. But I think what I might do is just, while we're here, I mean, obviously people can just click it anyway, so I don't know if there's any point. But if we can just get to the point where, wait a minute. I don't know if I'll be able to show it. But this is like her happy. It's Canada.
Ashley was super happy.
Paisley!
So that's her all innocent. This is the guy. This is the police turning up at the home. And they see him. They see a male figure. They've heard a report of something that's potentially might have happened to a female. So they say, look, if you don't answer the door, we're gonna kick the door in. So they force entry, and then they arrest him, take him to the police station, and then we hear report like things from her family about how how she dreamed of being going and traveling to be somewhere else, just because the town's too small. All these little things, but it's just quite sad. And there's a clip here of a voicemail. I don't know who he sent the voicemail to. It's not clear. That part's a bit up in the air. Did he send it to one of her friends? Did he send it to her? Either way, he sounded like an absolute lunatic, to be totally honest. And up until she arrived, he was acting nice, apparently. But then he had this other side to him that wasn't being clear, which is a bit sinister, really, isn't it? But yeah, I'll try and find it, the right spot. Let's do it here. That's her sister and that's her mum. Oh, let's go back there.
And they were like this, like. You ready?
Yeah. You video me.
Oh, you know?
Yeah.
You just look cute, so I was like, nice looking.
The next day, I'm like, how was your first night? Like, so what you got? And she's like, I fell asleep and he picked me up and carried me and put me to bed. And yeah, so I thought, aw. And she's like, he's so kind and we have such a good connection. It's, yeah. So she was really happy.
Like, I thought, this is great, like, perfect. It's going fantastic. What could go wrong?
Oh, my timber coming back.
This is it. So you think it's all happy, it's all great. The guy's a freaking lunatic. Listen to this shit.
This fucking thing on my fucking lip. I'm gonna fucking... This fucking thing on my fucking lip. It's fucking driving me crazy. I'm so fucking ill.
I personally, obviously, I say this. If you can't handle your own life, don't get in a relationship. If you can't handle a relationship, definitely stay away from one. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you can't handle someone else's life, to carry that on you, they don't even go near it. You know, if you keep to yourself, don't involve anyone else in your misery. That's the way I think. If you're that freaking crazy, be crazy on your own. Don't ruin someone else's life in the process. You know. Like I said, I've only got like 20 minutes in, but I feel really bad for a family. You know, after an event, of course, you can look at all the problems. Like, for instance, you'd think she wasn't really telling anyone there was a problem. I think that was where part of the issue is. So, and I'm sure it cost them a fortune to travel, so they probably didn't realise how bad it was. I think if you look at it from that point of view, but then the other side of you thinks, if you had an inkling at all, wouldn't you just get on a plane and turn up? At least then you check in on her personally. You know, it's a bit harsh, I think, sometimes, you know. But yeah, I'll show the part here where... So bear in mind, we started off with the fact that she was excited to get there. He carried her to bed because she fell asleep in the middle of... Oh, isn't that nice of him? Next thing you know, he's got screaming in the freaking voices shit going on. And then you've got, like, social media images where you look and you think, were they genuinely happy, or was that just a facade? And I think that's the real problem with social media in general, really, isn't it? And you just see how bad it gets. So his sister's like, why don't you come home? And she said, I don't know if I want to. But really, it's because, like, what the person's putting in your head, you know? Probably telling you not good enough.
Was manipulating my sister.
I was trying to get ready to go to hospital. She came running round, banging on the door. She had no shoes on. She had a cut on her hand and her phone was smashed to pieces. And she said, Jack's just beating me up. And I said, look, we've got to phone the police. And she said, no, not for a minute. And she said, and then he threw the kitten against the wall.
For a cat?
And I said, we've got to phone the police.
The real problem is what happens there, isn't it? Of course, you've got someone who's just getting more and more angry, more and more violent in the home where it's not being checked. So around other people, maybe they'd be able to confront them. Maybe they'd be able to do something and maybe realise that, you know, it's easy to pick on weak, isn't it? Like a cat, what's a cat going to do? A female that's far distance from family. Yeah, they're vulnerable. So maybe they feel weak and attached. And that's what it is, isn't it? They make their home a terrifying place because now they're all the big boss in the house. But in public, in the thingy, you probably find they don't carry that confidence everywhere else. Or they're overconfident. But yeah, I just think it's really sad, isn't it, that goes on in homes because someone's just becoming more and more over-exuberant because the circumstances make them feel like a king. It's just weak, isn't it?
And then all of a sudden I get a phone call from the neighbor, Helen. And I'm like, who is this Helen woman?
Well, I'm not going to go deep into there now because I haven't got too much further. I've got about there. And like I said, you can go through the comments here. People have a lot of opinions on it too. And I think it's important people have that debate, really, isn't it, on that sense, isn't it? But like I say, you can just watch it here, and I will put a link in the video to say where it is. But it's things like this that I just think they need to raise awareness, because you're going to have many people that get in related. You don't even have to travel abroad. Maybe just relocate to a different town, different area of the country, or even just it is local. Or you just move in with someone, but you don't really know them properly, or or maybe you got a bad vibe, but you still go through a thing because they've coerced you. Um, like, to be honest, I've had a conversation. I try and warn my daughter quite early on about things, and I'd make it very clear to her, just be very careful when someone offers you something. So say someone offers you a gift, and it's just a little gift, you don't think much of it. To them, they're investing in you. So it might be they've given you maybe 3 gifts over time, and you didn't think much of it. It weren't very expensive. It doesn't matter. The other person then starting to build a picture that, wait a minute, they think they're acquiring your time and attention. And there might be a day when you rebuff something, and they thought that something was happening, and then they get angry because they think, it's all those things. If you leave, without you realizing, those little things were precursors to something else. So you best really, I know you might want that thing, it might be something stupid, but you're better off just saying no to people, because then there's no one can have anything over you where you potentially owe them something, or they got some delusion in their mind. So you best just separate it, No, thank you. Just keep it simple. Unfortunately, it's a sad world we live in, isn't it? Crazy. But like I say, I don't know. I don't tend to watch true crime stuff. I find it morbid personally. But this is when I think you can learn from everything, of course. But I know some people do. They find it fascinating. But I always watch things with understanding. I think this is where it is. Some people see things as entertainment. Like that event happened, and they think, oh, I've got to watch this. Someone's lost their life. There's a genuine victim to all of these stories, and if you take it with the understanding that you're learning from it, and it gives you experience from other people's, then yeah, that's an experience that you're learning and developing from. If you're doing it as a source of absolute entertainment, that's incredibly morbid. Someone's lost their life for your source of entertainment, and I just think there's a lack of empathy in people sometimes. Like, they're not even considering the suffering someone went through, or how genuine that situation is, But again, so some people that's their favourite thing to watch, and I just think you're a potential serial killer yourself if that's the case. I mean, I know some people probably think, oh, it's not. It's not normal. It's not normal. Like I say, I don't normally watch it, but I was compelled because I don't know. I think it was linked to social media for some reason, so I just thought that could be interesting. Oh, what's the concept behind that? And then I don't know. Obviously, started watching it. Yeah, and it was like in Essex. I'm from Essex. Like, I've relocated about 5 years ago, somewhere like a bit further north. But yeah, I'm from Essex. Not that same town. Obviously, visited there, local enough. And I think that when things are like closer to home, I think you just think, wow. But of course, you think it could happen anywhere, couldn't it? For God's sake. So it's not really the location that matters; it's the circumstance of it. And reality is that could potentially happen to anyone, like within reason, of course. And it's like sometimes things work out, but then I think the ones that don't, it's like really, it's just triggering, isn't it? Because everything's hindsight. Oh, if only, if only, if only. And it's like, God damn. Like, where she came from, when it showed the clips of the town she came from, I thought, that looks nice. Like, and I think that's the thing. No matter where you're from, there's always going to be somewhere that would seem exotic because it's different. So I saw where she was. I thought, that looks really nice little town in Canada. And like her family said, for her, it was just too small. So she wanted to see more of the world. Like, so in England, she's obviously picturing going to London and seeing more of the sights and expanding her experiences, But then it turned out she was really just confined to the flat most of the time. She didn't really get to explore that all that much. So the dream that she had envisioned, it didn't even come to life, and she died miserable. Wrap your head around it, It messes with your head when you go deep enough. I think, like I said, I think some people don't go that far and they just go all entertainment mode. For me, I'm always thinking about the person who suffered, and then I get a little bit angry when I think about the other person. Who the hell, what justifies something for you to be able to take action against someone else's life? You know, just because they think they control something, someone becomes their possession, and because they wasn't checked, you know, it's avoidable. Anyway, the video is going to be, like I said, linked